All right. If you're a founder, investor, or operator thinking about data security, Web3, and the future of digital ownership, this conversation is for you. Murphy John, Chief Growth Officer, joins us to break down what's next in this industry. Hey, Murphy John, how are you?
I'm doing all good, John. Thanks for having me for the podcast.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, welcome. Super excited to have you on because I think this part of the world, right? We're all somewhat concerned about. There's so much information out there. There's the dark web, the Web3, the this part and that part. I'm a financial guy, so we definitely work with our clients to be able to kind of see what type of infrastructure they're going to put together, manage with managed IT services and those types of things. But it's certainly important to talk about and see, well, how do your companies, right, StorX, and how do you develop the right plan if things are changing on a daily basis, it feels like. So excited to have you on. So obviously, as the Chief Growth Officer, you're out there business developing, doing podcasts, sharing the great story of StorX. Tell us a little bit about the story of StorX and how it was founded.
Okay, so I'll take back to the time. So we started around 5 years back. It was around 2020 that we were working around with the idea. Our founder is Mr. Andy Barrett. He's very passionate about the infrastructure, the cloud, and the storage part or the computing part. So he comes from the background where it's everything about computing, providing internet infrastructure, and that's where I also joined in. So I have an experience of around 20 years. We were the company which was setting up infrastructure for clients, web infrastructure. So basically, all the top 100 companies in that part of the world, setting up infrastructures for them, mailing services, DNS services, managing it across. So we had our career was all throughout working with internet-based infrastructure, storage, computing, cloud, and all that. And when we saw that there was a transition that was happening from the on-prem to cloud, and cloud was really bringing a lot of benefits to the users. And then once the cloud was being used, there started the abuse happening. So there was a lot of abuse that was happening around data. There was issues like virus infection, ransomware, and then there was cases like the Cambridge Analyticals. Everybody knows about it, right? So people started growing a little wary about how should we keep our data, how should we manage our data, how should the privacy be affected. And vis-a-vis what happened was as the cloud industry grew, we saw that it was being only like three or four hyperscalers were all taking over the market. So there was like four or five major providers who were providing the services, and it was just they were concentrating, and whole world data was being concentrated in this five private players. And that's really a very bad condition for people like consumers as a whole, because so many people controlling so much of data, they are prone to a lot of things around the world. So there was snooping going on around the world, there was attack going on around the world, and people really didn't have an insight like what's happening to the data. So that's when and slowly the blockchain was also evolving. So that's when we started looking into this, and we found that we could bring in the blockchain and the cloud together, and that's how we started this journey. We took almost like 1.5 years to perfect the product, and then we started onboarding users after that. So that's around end of 2021. We started onboarding the first set of users. We were on the beta for the first 2 years. We were talking to the customers how it was and how was the journey, how they feel, and then we found that there's actually a market for it, and that's how a journey started into this whole era.
Interesting. So, and just from a layman's perspective and Go4CEO community, I'll try to ask some questions to go deeper here because it's certainly not my space. But so would StorX be, in my mind, are they the in between, the intermediary between AWS type cloud, or are you a VPN of some sort? Like, I'm just not
I,
understanding.
I, Yeah, so I'll explain you how it works. So traditionally, when earlier in earlier days, data was always on premises. People were not ready to move in the data anywhere else. They
Yeah.
used to guard their data like life's most precious asset. And slowly, when the cloud was introduced, people like the financial world was very that they don't want to move the data. they were protecting the data, anything. But then cloud industry came in, and they came with the three major promises, which was lacking in the on-premises. It was basically the scalability. They would offer unlimited scalability, which is not possible on an on-premises cloud. The cost would be very efficient compared to setting up the data center, setting up, managing the data center. The cost, it would be very efficient. And third was enormous security. So they ensure that the data remains secure. They build in systems around their services that ensures the data remains safe. So this were the three core promises, and they met these promises to certain levels when people were migrating. And then we saw major of the people who were just selling off their data centers, and they were just investing in cloud. And so what happens is, typically when you're storing your data on the cloud, if not any, most of the data is like stored. If you store a single file, it gets stored in a single location as a single file in the cloud. So that means if the service provider or any third party or a hacker is able to access that infrastructure, he'll be able to see that file. He can easily access that file. He can access that file, he can copy that file, he can use it and misuse the file. The second one is there are threats like virus infection, and there was like human element that people used to, the file used to get deleted automatically, all those stuff. So what evidently happened was, people, the way in which the data was stored was practically not the right way. So what we do at StorX, which is totally different compared to the traditional hyperscaler, is whenever you're using StorX to store your data or your file. So first thing that we do is, from your browser itself, we lock your file with user's unique private key. So that means in your devices itself, the file is encrypted. The encrypted file is then transferred to the server, where it gets broken down into multiple pieces. Now, suppose your full file is broken down into 10 pieces. After that, what we do is we replicate those pieces. So instead of 10 pieces, we create 30 pieces, 35 pieces, those kind of thing. And then we distribute it to the network of global nodes. So currently we have around 3,000 nodes which are spread worldwide. So we have nodes everywhere in the world, almost in Africa, in Singapore, in India, US, Europe. So all the places of the world, and these would be storing a small chunk of your data. So what happens? Because of this way in which how we are storing the data, your data can never be accessed by any third party, including we as a platform, because the encryption key only lies with you, and only you can get it decrypted and the file gets converted. So because of this unique way in which you're storing the file, what happens is you get unique resiliency, because you are not storing your data as a single file in a single location. So that means if any of the location goes down, any of the node is not available, you can still get in your data from the other node. The system will always know where that data is being stored. The second one is, because you are replicating and multiplying the data, if the virus gets infected, or if there is some file that is not available, so you offer them basically resiliency. So the data is resilient, multiple spread across world, and it's very secure. It's very secure compared to any other ISPs or anything, because you're distributing the whole data and you're destroying it. So even if the virus can see it, ransomware cannot encrypt it, because there are multiple locations which are there. So this, in sense, offers you a very high level of security, privacy, and resilience.
Hmm. It's interesting. As you were saying this, I remember in the late 90s, it was a big thing to have a T1 access. So a dedicated line of data to your location, its speed, all these types of things. And then it became, like I heard through the years, the cloud and these types of things. But I think of it, I'm a commercial banker, right? And I think of it overnight in the banking world, if you have too much money in one bank, we spread it out through other banks overnight so that the FDIC insurance can cover all of it, right? If let's say you have 60 million or 10 million and it's only 750,000 that's covered, insured, you spread out all those throughout many banks, and all the banks do this into different layers. So it reminds me of that, and it's really interesting when you say a node, is that just again a smaller cloud base somewhere in the world, or?
Yeah. So basically, that's a very interesting part of it. So what we do is, basically we have node operators who are like a community member. So they subscribe, they bring in the storage from the local services. Now imagine if we as an individual or an entity would have to go and create 3,000 locations, it would practically impossible. So what we do is we onboard partners. partners get in the storage, they coordinate with the internet data center, they get in spare storage, they try to access the cheapest possible storage which is available with the maximum efficiency, and they bring and give it to the network. And then we compensate them or we reward them for ensuring that the data that they're storing is always intact. So they have to follow certain parameters. They need to ensure that the data is always there. They need to ensure the uptime. They need to ensure that the latency is always there. So we do a lot of checks which are there inbuilt, and it keeps on happening. So the node keeps on getting audited. And the moment this nodes are not able to fulfill their requirements, the quality parameters which we have set, they get penalized. They don't get rewards for that. So this is basically an incentivized mechanism where the node operators are incentivized to keep their nodes intact, ensure it's up and running, those kind of things.
So it's basically like like you bought an apartment building where you could put a bunch of data and it's in Noida, India. And then it's one is in London, England, and one is in Greenland, right? Type of scenario,
Yeah.
right? So that's
So
very
we are like in Airbnb or in Uber, where people bring in they see in what is the spare capacity that they can get in, and they plug into the system, and then they earn.
awesome, awesome. Well, look, as I said offline, I typically call the non-founders as guests of my show. We call them entrepreneurs because you have a passion to explore and share the story of StorX, even though you didn't found it, but you're so integral to the building of this business, to the marketing of the business, to the business development. So what are some of the things that you do day to day as a chief growth officer that you can share with our audience?
Okay. So this is like a very unique position that I have, and I get kept being asked this question again and again. So what's your actual role? So my role is something in between the business development, technology, and ensuring that the system is taken care. So my day-to-day role is talking to new customers, talking to prospects, working with our existing customers, ensuring that they get the benefits. We work with POC based clients. So I'm the first person to from the organization to talk to a person and onboard them, see that the work is going on, see that the POC is properly done, and the technology they can utilize the technology the best of the possible ways. So that's my role. So I keep talking to the customers, I keep talking to the new prospects, and I keep talking and coordinating with our existing customers and keep taking feedback about how's it all working, what's the feedback, in what way can we improve the services, those kind of things.
Okay. And, it's interesting, right? Obviously, as you form an organization, the only way you really get bigger is go from individual sole proprietor to being a business where you have key employees, key leaders, and obviously, as a C-suite chief growth officer, you are one of those. Were you a third hire, a tenth hire? What level of the
So
organization? When did you
the
come in?
first, I was among the first five hires. So we can tell that the our founder was giving this idea, pitching to us, and we were the first one to listen the actual pitch and see that this is going to be something massive. So that's that. So we're the first set of employees who joined in StorX.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, and where did StorX where was it founded? Where in the world?
So currently, the organization is registered in Seychelles, and we operate out of offices based out of Seychelles, Dubai, and India. So we have a team which is based out of India, and we have team based out of UAE, and that's how we coordinate.
Awesome. And your clients are worldwide, I'm assuming?
Yes, we currently have a lot of customers. So what we do is we have like a freemium package. So anyone can go online and register on our platform. Up to 2 GB, they can use the platform. They can see how it's working. There's no charges. They don't have to share any credit card or anything. You can just go online and register. So that's why we have a whole lot of customers which are spread worldwide. You
Yeah. And so this initial freemium participation to understand what StorX can do, the quality, the value, and then you transition them into larger
pay.
scale
Yes.
engagements.
Yes. So we engage with the customers, and then we this are the there are a few of the customers who transition to paid subscriptions from the free users.
Okay. So in the business development side, I'm always very interested. Obviously, I've been in sales all my life or owned a business or been an entrepreneur. is your model right now where the internet and your website and the way that you guys maybe have some sales funnels, is that the particular way that someone can find you, or are
Yes.
you, maybe
So
calling, making
yeah. So
conversations?
we work in both the ways. We work in both the ways. So we run a whole lot of campaigns. We run a whole lot of Google AdWords, doing SEO promotions and all kind of things. That's the traditional way where people find us, go sign up and use our product. Then we have a second layer where we work with a lot of resellers, value-added resellers, partners who use our services, who in-build our services and give it to the clients as a value-added services from there. That's how basically we work and operate. So our partners are also very efficiently working with us. They come up with suggestions for the clients. They offer like how this, because this is a whole new concept, right? The cloud took almost like 15-20 years to be the position for the adoption from the on-premises. It almost took the people to like 15-20 years to realize that cloud is in thing. So we still in the adoption phase. There are a lot of doubts people have. So we need somebody who's like trusted partners, telling them, explaining them the service, working with them based on the requirements, and they play a very vital role in understanding locally with the client, coordinating with the clients.
And maybe I should have started with this, but why don't we break down the cloud? Because it always seems like, oh, it's just this mysterious place where data goes to, and it's not in the sky. It's, from my understanding, it's these humongous buildings with maybe hundreds of thousands of servers stacked and stacked and stacked, and the energy and stuff. So is that, so let's find out, let's I guess describe what the actual cloud is in a very simple way. And then does that have anything to do with the new growth of all these data centers, or is that completely different?
Yeah, so basically, the cloud is the heart of all computing. So typically, what we divide it, it's basically the set of computers, a lot more powerful computers. I'll give you a very simple analogy so people can understand relate. So it's basically very powerful set of computers which are clustered and staggered together in internet data centers. So we have internet data centers which run a whole lot of clusters of servers, and they typically do two or three functionality. So there is two functionality which is the major ones when you talk about cloud. One is the computing part, which actually does computing, where you need those GPUs, where you need the processors to process your thing, and there is the storage part. So we basically take care of the storage part, where we provide storage, typical like storage for people to store the data. And the other dominant part is the processing part, where there's GPUs and AIs and all those around the world which work. So it's basically nothing like a a powerful cluster of servers brought together and kept in the internet data centers. And you have such kind of data centers all around the world which are interconnected.
So I'm assuming, obviously, with my commercial banker hat, companies started to realize, hey, we don't want to house all this data on our site because we'd almost have to build a whole different building. We'd have to maintain a different infrastructure. We'd have to have people like yourself and StorX be employees of the company, right? So it became cheaper to have you guys maintain it from a remote location. And then obviously you created this technology where you were able to, when was that discovered? Instead of going to one cloud storage data center,
So
that you
yeah,
guys developed this other technology where it could go to different nodes.
so it all started around 20, 25 years back. It basically started with around Amazon, which was the like leader in the industry. So they were doing this e-commerce stuff, and they found out that they have a whole chunk of servers which were just lying idle because they were just being used when there was some sale, where was some kind of offers going on. So they found, why don't we try selling this, and that's how it started growing in. So as it coming to your questions, that how, so it's basically in the arbitrage that we have. So they all the IDCs have a lot of computing power, a lot of storage power, and they have a lot of expertise. Earlier, it was to be very simple computers. Now we've gone in terms of complexity, the use, the security. So there are a whole lot of special processes which are required. You require manpower who are specialists in handling each aspect of it, maybe the data hardware, the software, the latency, and the security, which of course is the most prominent now. So it makes much more sense for people not to like, even if there is an organization's bigger organization who can save in a lot of space, save in a lot of expertise, but just outsourcing into the data center, which will make them much more efficient. And what you can say, I think they can save cost to some extent, but now we see that people are still going back to the on-premises world because the cloud computing cost has obviously grown up very high. It has become one of the very prominent thing in people's balance sheet. If you look at some bigger companies, they have like the cloud computing plays a very big role. So, and the cost has been increasing. So there's some companies who have discovered that it makes much more sense for them to be like having the in-house servers, or they having keep it inside and then saving it on the cost of it.
Hmm. So in those situations where a company's kind of reverting to maybe go in-house, how can StorX really help then in that scenario?
So we can be the storage layer. Obviously, the kind of network that we offer, would be impossible for them to set it up because having 3,000 nodes being set up by an individual or an organization is practically impossible. And because of this technology that we are offering, like breaking in encryption, fragmentations, and all those things, they can earn a lot of security wise. It becomes much more resilient. It is robust, and you can access it anywhere. And privacy is also guaranteed. And coming to that point, I have a very interesting case. So we are doing this on a whole scale, but we're doing this also for specific customers. So we have like customers who are coming in from specific industry. I'll give you a small example. I have an organization who's piloting with me for a medical thing, because medical is a very critical data. They have like a lot of compliance. They have HIPAA compliance, software compliance, PCI compliance. They wanted to have the security that StorX offers, but they did not want to go to public StorX, because what happens is, because of the regulations, the data should not move out of the country when there are health records. So there are a lot of obvious reasons and regulations around health records. They should not go out of the country. So what we did was we set them up a local entity, which is like 3 or 4 different locations, and have the same network built in privately for them. So they could comply to all the regulations which are required. At the same time, the data is not going out anywhere from to the public network.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's interesting, right? It's so neat when in business you get this certain type of thought pattern and you start to grow a certain way, and then people realize, hey, maybe the cost, the infrastructure, the things that are happening become a little bit too scaled up, and the cost is now prohibitive. You move to different areas, and then there's new opportunities for companies like StorX to be, players in the marketplace. So let's switch it a little bit. I love obviously that you were one of the initial employees at StorX, and you've become the chief growth officer, and you're out there marketing and building this awareness. What are some of the ideals right now? We said at the beginning, Web3, infrastructure, data protection. When you think about AI, how is it playing with what you guys are doing, and how can you, I guess, ensure that data continues to be something that we safeguard, but also we have access to very fast, right? Because these large language models are using data from everywhere.
So for that also, I have an interesting analogy. So I'll just share with you. So what happens is companies have massive data. Okay, so this massive data, customer data, proprietary data, which they don't want to keep it in the cloud, obviously for multiple reasons. So what they are doing is they're coming up to us and saying us that, hey, look, we have this set of data which we don't want to go to public cloud because of the privacy reason, security reason, and we're not very comfortable. So what you do is you provide us this specific storage where we can guarantee that the data is always secured and lying within the parameters. At the same time, we can run in our LLMs over them, train our LLMs, and get output. So that's the kind of usage that we are getting for the AI use case, which works very interesting, because what happens is they have humongous amount of data which is there, which they want to keep it in there, but they don't want to share it in the public cloud. So these are the proprietary data, their years of data, their customer interaction, some kind of information that is more or less they don't want to share it publicly.
Interesting. So, yeah, look, obviously this area, it's become so prevalent because we went from the industrial age to the information age, and now we're going to the next level with AI and some of the things that are going on. But I wonder, what's the scalability part of this, right? Is it always the changing chips? Is it the hardware? Like, what is it? Not necessarily scalability, sorry, the CapEx part of it from a storage X perspective. You said earlier you're always keeping your nodes accountable on their infrastructure and their data security and everything. But how can you really have an eye on 3,000 places? Can you share a little bit of that insight and how that internal mechanism works?
Okay, so we have a set of mechanism that is built into a network. There are 3 to 4 parameters which are really very important when it comes to the node or the cloud which is running the storage cloud. So it's the latency that you get. Latency means something in how much millisecond can the data be accessible. The second one is the network needs to be up and ensure that the network is always up and running. The hardware needs to be intact. That is, the server needs to run for 24/7, and all the security parameters are always taken care of. So what we do is we have this kind of things which are automatically built in the system, which is like an automatic process. So we do send a request to the node, and the node has to respond back. We send the request to the node has to respond back, and we see in how much seconds are they responding, because the quality parameters is always set. And then what we do is we do something called as a node challenge. Node challenges. Suppose we have the track of how much bits of pieces of data is being sent to specific node. The system takes care of it, and it challenges it for a specific time. Like, you have 84 bits of data, give it back to me at 84. If that node is not able to provide them with 84 bits of data, it's immediately marked as non-active, and the data which is like the all the data which is there, it already knows, and the server knows which other nodes are holding those data. So this guy gets penalized because he's not able to provide the response that he's having 84 piece of data which a system is asking. So these are kind of the audits that are built into the system from day one, so that we ensure that the nodes are always up and running.
So my simple mind on technology is, all right, there's a server, there's technology in that server, but just like my refrigerator, it goes out sometimes, right? My oven, it doesn't work anymore. My dishwasher, these types of things I deal with in my regular life. So how usual or how typical is it the change of these hardware? Is it, and then how do you prevent stoppage? Or is this where they say, let's say in a company, hey, from Friday 11 p.m. to Saturday 10 a.m., we're going to have some unavailability. You won't be able to access. Is that what that means? Is maybe they're changing out hardware
Yeah,
and
so those are like very heavy kind of shutdown maintenance. Then we have regular maintenance which keeps on going, and then we have a overall change of hardware. So overall change of hardware is like 3 to 5 years when the hardware is worn out. So when you use your hardware for 5 years, three typically starts from around 3 years, and it ends like 5 years is the maximum that you can use the hardware. Then you have to just retire them, because those are all like worn out, used excessively, or they cannot do this kind of function. They can do functions which are like scaled down. So this is what we typically do. We do a hardware refresh, we do a software refresh, we do updates regularly. So we like, if there is some major updates, we inform all our node operators to do it, and they just download and update the software. So that's kind of all parameters sets in and ensure that all these nodes are working that way. So they're very, because what happens is, typically if you just leave it to a human to check in all those nodes, it's impossible for them to check in 3,000 nodes every single time, because the amount of resiliency that you need to offer is anything like 99.99, something like that. So you cannot do it with the human mind. You need to have systems built in that'll take care of this and ensure that everything is up and running, working fine.
and do you see in the future, with all these robots and things happening, is there any thoughts of maybe with locations and stuff and having like a robot that's set that will do the work for what the human could do in that sense?
So robots is typically agents, what you're talking about. So there'll be a agent where you will designate an agent to take care that your data is always secured. You do a challenge at regular intervals, and you will ensure that your data is always intact and remaining. So you give him a set of tasks, like you have to, every 3 days, you have to challenge the system and ask him for the data. You have to challenge the system is working fine or not. And by the end of the week, by the end of the day, it will give you the report. Like by the end of month, you'll decide like, I made so many checks and so many checks have failed. and that's how you ensure that the data is safe. This is like this would happen in all the aspects of life. As you said, the oven breaks down, so you will have smart systems which keep on sending some messages to the oven to ensure that the parameters are always working. The refrigerator will have some automated IoT tools which kind of guesses and sends in like the gas is less or there is some kind of issue that is there, and that's how it will, I think, typically happen maybe 6 months, 1 year down the line, where you'll be outsourcing all your tasks to these agents, and all these agents would be doing specific job.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like my filter in my refrigerator. I don't have to check it. It just tells me, hey, replace your filter. Right? I'll order a new one and I see one come in the mail. So pretty cool stuff. Look, I mean, this is such an interesting world. It's certainly not the way my brain works. And hopefully, Go4CEO community, you've gotten a lot of information from, Murphy John and what he's doing at StorX. And it's interesting to have these types of opportunities to talk about it because we think of it from a normal layman's perspective of, hey, this data is here and this is the files that we're saving. And we think of it maybe from our home computer perspective. Oh, here's a question for you. And I don't know if this is too simple, but when there's sometimes when we as an individual take some sort of file from someone on an email and it says corrupted or you can't open it. In this technology that you have, you said that you maybe store data in fragments in different areas. So if it becomes corrupted, how can you actually find that piece of data again? Or is it that it just goes to a different area and it just picks up the other one?
Yeah, so as I told you, that's why we do this replication part of it, to ensure that the data is always available. So how typically what happens is when a corruption of the file happens, what could be the reason? There will be some part of the segment of the data which is not transported well, or there's some part of data which is lost, something like that. So this is to ensure that you get all the pieces intact. And even if you get like out of 10 pieces, you are able to get in 6 pieces, it can still stitch the whole file and give it to you. So that's the beauty of the system that is devised.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting. Well, look, this has been an interesting conversation, and I really am enamored by kind of the way your brain thinks and the industry that you chose to be in. Obviously, all of us choose different areas. We could be doctors, attorneys, data scientists, nuclear people, or financial people, right? Stuff like that, or working on cars. It's one of the reasons I really enjoy having so many entrepreneurs, and CEOs, founders of companies on because there's so many different ways to kind of look at things, and StorX is making a difference in the way that we use data and all that stuff. So one of the things that we do for ending our interviews are CEO, client experience. E is for engagement and O is for operational excellence. So I'll start with the first one. From your perspective, a value proposition that you could share, maybe 60 seconds. Why should people do business with StorX as a client experience?
So if you're looking for a privacy focused storage, so something that you need not worry that the data you need not be snooped in by somebody, and it remains reliably accessible any part of the time, any part of the day. The architecture itself promises that the data remains insured. So you are not trusting anybody like a organization or an entity, but you're trusting the system. That the system will take care of itself and ensure whenever you ask for the data, it's available.
Nate. And then you yourself, Murphy John, we always like to ask our guests, how do they engage? So with your team, with your clients, with your founder, with your family, like how do you like to engage from a human level? Do you like doing dinners? Do you like doing events? Are you a person that likes to do retreats? Are you a Zoom person? Like, what is the best way that you feel people engage with Murphy John?
So one-to-one contact, that's the best part, I think. But that's not possible now because you have distributed team working at so many different places. But yeah, every day you contact and you be accessible to people. You communicate with them and be in touch with them. That's how I know all my team across. So it's like communication is the biggest thing, that you communicate every day and give any idea, share that person. And beyond that, it's just like knowing that that's a person beyond the screen. It's not just ID or screen. That's something that is more important.
Awesome. Well, look, yeah, I mean, obviously in a world where you have so many contacts and different relationships and all these nodes and people like that as a chief growth officer, you're really having to really touch human beings and rely on people and have build trust. And they say in the United States, know, like, and trust. So KLT, know, like, trust, really builds a lot of foundation, right, with the way that you engage with people. So the last one is operational excellence. StorX, is it using, can you share with some ideas of what you guys use in your back office to keep your, organized? What kind of CRM do you use? What kind of Monday.com or something like that? What are the best systems that you guys use to run your business?
So we do believe in operational excellences, and we are a very big fan of EOS, Entrepreneurs Operating System. We do vouch for it. Our founder vouched for it. So we do follow a lot of practices, but we use a lot of tools basically for creating the data and sharing the data. So we don't have any specific tool like CRM which is used, but we use a lot of Excel sheet and all those kind of data to remain communicate. And we have an internal system where we share the data. So obviously we use StorX to share a lot of data, and then that's like in the background. But yeah, that's how we communicate basically and cooperate. But we follow vouch for EOS system. That's something that all the entrepreneurs should actually look at and having the excellence built into this.
Man, it's amazing how EOS has impacted the world, right? It
Yes.
seems like every two or three people I have that are guests on the Go4CEO channel talk to me about they're implementing EOS and they're using EOS. And so it's really neat to see somebody that created that has impacted the world that way. So I will say, selfishly, right? I have my book, The 4A Formula, talks about the framework of how to think and think like a CEO. And it talks about assessing, right? If we are at a certain level, we assess at where we're at today. Then we take alignment and could I meet, Murphy John? Could I meet John from Go4CEO? Like who can I align with and what are my values and principles that I align with to implement? And then I have accountability, right? That's another third measure. And then the last one is taking action. So in the book, I love these books that have been out there in the marketplace. Another one is Blue Ocean Strategy, right? You guys changed the way computing and cloud was thought of by having a blue ocean strategy with 3,000 nodes and separating data and chunking it out. So, what a cool story. So, Murphy John, how could someone that may see this podcast or see a short of it, what is the best way to get a hold of you? LinkedIn, email? What's the best way that people can interact with you?
So we are available on LinkedIn. We have a company profile. We have a website, and we do a lot of communication through Twitter. Twitter address is StorX Network, x.com/StorX Network. And we are available on email as well. So anybody can contact me. Our email address is info@storx.io. And Facebook and everything, Instagram, we do a lot of information. We do a lot of information sharing about the platform, the whole market itself, the decentralized economy. We are a very big followers of the decentralized economy. That's right.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Go4CEO community, check out Murphy John on LinkedIn. He said info@storx.io. And
That's right.
exciting times, we know that this is not going away. This is the way that data is being portrayed. And I'm curious of what the new technology and things that'll happen in the future. But ultimately, about 25, 30 years ago, we started saying to ourselves, hey, let's not keep it in-house. Let's put it into the cloud. And all that meant was outside infrastructure. So thank you so much for making it simple today to understand, to share the message of StorX and to be of value to our community. So thank you, Murphy John.
Thank you. Thank you, John.